Hey, hey, he's gonna come be in the video.
Oh god, his butt and balls.
Good boy. Well, we should probably work. Today I'm here at UK Bike Fit with Dan, and we're going to talk about 5 setup mistakes on your bike that you should try and avoid. Number 1 is shoe fit. When we do a fit, like everything to do with the feet is where we start. The shoes, the cleats, the insoles, the position of the pedals, everything like that. When you've got a suboptimal shoe, it makes the rest of the fit a bit harder or a bit more suboptimal. Like other things are going to be impacted by the shoe if the shoe's not ideal. Having the correct size shoe in terms of length is obviously important. Width is definitely important, making sure that the width of the shoe is the same width as your foot. The main things that this impacts further up the chain is that you lose support and stability in the foot, which then mainly affects knee and saddle. So you can get a lot of knee issues or saddle discomfort from having a shoe that doesn't fit properly, because it impacts on cleat position and stability. Number 2, cleat position. And this is moving on from the shoe, because you've got to have the right fitting shoe first before you think about getting the right cleat position, because the shoe can impact where the cleat is under your foot. And when we're looking at cleat position, it is where the cleat is in relation to your foot, not the shoe. Again, similar to the shoe, if the cleat is in a suboptimal position, then that will affect the position of other things like saddle height, saddle setback. It'll affect your pedal dynamics and how you push power into the pedal. Without having the cleat position, again, it just makes everything else further up the chain a lot harder to fit. Number 3, saddle height and saddle setback. And I put those two in together because one of those things affects the other, which I think a lot of people, when we're talking to customers about their fit and what they've tried before, a lot of people, think their saddle's too high or too low and then move it up or down, but don't consider the impact that that has on how far forward or far back the saddle is as well. When we're fitting saddle position, whenever we make a change to one of those things, whether it's the fore aft or the height, then we have to consider what's going on with the other one. So if you move the saddle down, because of the angle of the tube, it's going to bring your saddle slightly further forward. And if you raise your saddle height, it brings the saddle further back. That might be a good thing or a bad thing, but you definitely need to think about it when you're moving your own saddle. Number 4 is saddle choice. And again, similar to what we spoke about with the feet, the saddle itself affects a lot of other things around the fit, other than just how comfortable you are sat on the bike. If the choice of saddle that you've got is positioning you in a way that is either uncomfortable and painful, or it positions you, for example, very far forward or very far back on the saddle, that impacts so much about saddle height, pedal dynamics, the reach of the front end, and how much you have to reach through your body to get to the front end of the bike. So just changing the saddle affects so much, or so many other things about the position, that you have to think about that when you're just changing saddle. Because again, a lot of people will try different saddles and just put saddle after saddle on and see whether it's comfortable or not. But the impact that that has on the saddle height, for example, is going to impact how that saddle feels. So it might be the perfect saddle, but in the wrong position, and then it feels uncomfortable even though you've got the perfect saddle. And you write it off and throw it in the bin and buy another one and go through that or down that rabbit hole, rather than thinking about the saddle and the fit together. Number 5 is not knowing your bike's geometry. The geometry of the frame is ultimately going to dictate what positions you can put yourself in on that bike without messing up bike handling and putting a ridiculously short stem on or something like that. And I think a lot of people don't know the geometry of their bike, or don't fully understand geometry. So spending a bit of time looking into what geometry is, what measurements they should look out for, how that affects certain fit implications, and how it affects handling of bikes is really important. And then once you know that and know what geometry suits you, you're in a much better position when it comes to buying future bikes, because you can either buy a bike that gets you in the same position, or you can manipulate your geometry a little bit to get a bike that suits a different need if you're buying a gravel bike from a road bike, for example. So knowing geometry is really powerful when it comes to fit. So if you're thinking about looking into your geometry of bike, you can look it up on, there's a few places you can look it up, but geometrygeeks.bike is a good website, or Bike Insight is another one. And there you can search and look through what geometry your bike is, but it also tells you what measurements mean what and how they're measured and where they're measured. So it's really useful to go onto those sites and have a look.
If you like this video, please drop a comment in it, and if you want any more bike fitting tips and stuff, let me know, and we can do some more stuff with Dan at UK Bike Fit. Cheers.